we talked about this briefly too, about people who, why would I hold liquid hex? Why would I even buy hex in a lot of ways? Do you think because there's all these bets, 1, 3, 7, 5, 15-year bets with Maximus, you got synthetic B shares, you got ICOSA, which has a play and stuff too. Do you think we get to a world where, today, maybe you tell someone, oh, what's the best thing you can do? You say, oh, if they don't know anything about crypto, you say, oh, buy Bitcoin. But you don't really mean buy Bitcoin. That's okay too. But you mean like buy hex. Eventually, if you get further in that conversation, you may talk to them about hex. Do you think we'll get to a point where you say buy hex, but you don't really, that's kind of the meme. You don't really buy hex. You really buy a derivative of some sort because it has all these extra features that, the native token hex just doesn't have. And is that a good thing or I don't know. I'm always going back and forth.
I like the question. I think that's a perceptive question. I think it's a good thing. I think I'll try to be more specific. I think it's a good thing that other projects are built around hex. I think the focus on hex right now is greater because Maximus and Hedron are drawing attention to hex. And for example, Maximus just bought hex. Like there's a pretty big tie to buying Maximus and getting hex. But I think the focus, like if we had this bear market and it was just hex, like I think there'd be a lot less focus and attention on it right now. And I think it's very hard to draw specifically to what one thing made the hex price pump. And it's hard to know exactly how Maximus or Hedron or ICOSA attributed to that. But I think you can kind of stand back and feel, at least I can a little bit, all the excitement and focus that is indirectly coming to hex right now in a bear market because of cool ideas and potentiality surrounding hex. And I think it's kind of similar, like Ethereum, everyone likes Ethereum, but a lot of the reason people have Ethereum isn't for Ethereum. Like at one time it was for ICOs. And it's like all these other things that were like, look at us, that indirectly you had to have Ethereum to drew a ton of focus to Ethereum. And I think that a lot of times the world works that way. Like I don't go to Amazon because I want Amazon. I go to Amazon because I want to buy some random thing, but indirectly Amazon, everyone now knows what Amazon is. And I kind of think, I think there's always a scale. There's a point at which this might break down, but generally speaking, I think that focus and attention is overall a net positive, especially because these projects have, I think, partially because of the hate for anything besides a straight up Richard Hart project. I think they've put a lot of effort into trying to be directly pro hex, not just using it for their own gain regardless of hex. They're actually, for the most part, I think, very trying to promote hex in their own use. I think Hedron and ICOSA are leading to a lot more 555, max length hex stakes, for example, than there would be otherwise. And that's just a even better benefit to some of the projects. But overall, I think the focus is great. The fact that this is happening in a bear market and we have reasons to talk about, even if just indirectly, I think there's a lot more people focusing on hex than would otherwise. And I think it'd be kind of boring without these things. And I think hex is overall benefiting.
That's a good point you bring up too. Just the in a bear market, all this stuff is happening. It's, some people say that we could have a mini bull run within the RH ecosystem. And could that have happened without all these products and all these people coming in and building these derivatives around them, building these things that, have the positive price feedback loops and all the innovation happening when PulseChain launches with all the utilities there? I don't know if we could have a mini bull run if it was just hex and if it was just, okay, PulseChain's launching, but you just get a copy of hex on there. I don't think it gives authority to hex. We could have it otherwise.
Yeah. I think it gives authority indirectly. It's an assumption, like you were saying earlier, that I want Hedron to do well. It's an assumption that hex is going to do well if I'm already on that thought. And I think the more people can build on it, it's an unconscious assumption that hex is going to do well. It's building like the implied authority of hex, just by our actions. I think if we want any of these tokens, we're assuming that Hex itself is going to do well. And I think that's a good thing. I think it's drawing focus and attention. I think those are some of the most valuable things that you can draw, especially in a positive way. And yeah, I think it's good.
I almost think of it as like a house of cards, but that just can't fall. Like one of those, like it's all these things built on top of each other, but at a really solid foundation. Like the cards are welded together, that sort of thing. Like
yeah. I think it's one of those things too that, I mean, the more attention it gets, like the better it does. It doesn't hurt it. It actually helps it. And if one of my like biggest concerns for, I don't know if concerns is the right word, but one of the things that I look for in crypto is focus. Because I've seen, first principle cryptos do terrible when it comes to price. I've seen Dogecoin have immense runs in price, and it was a relatively original token, and it is still around. Why is Dogecoin with a terrible first principles that everyone talks about? How come it has done by some metrics so well? I think it's partially because it's captured emotion and focus, and I think
and a billionaire's attention.
Right. Exactly. Why would the billionaire probably wouldn't, like, if he hadn't heard of it, he wouldn't have talked about it. Like, and I think sometimes that can be undervalued. I think one of the reasons I like Hex is because people are locked up in a lot of cases for over 10 years, and that incentivizes them to talk well about Hex. If they have a portion of their net worth in it, they want well for it. That is so valuable to have people, and you can just see it. Like, in my mind, that's like a rational statement. If you can incentivize people to want well for something, it'll probably do well. But you can, now that Hex has existed this long, see how many YouTube channels there are, how many just websites about any kind of Hex thing you want, movies, like there's Hex everything, and it is, I think, incentivized because people have their net worth locked up in it, and they want it to do well, and that is promoting it to actually do well. And I think that's Hex indirectly. I don't hear this meme talked about a ton. It definitely is, but the idea that Hex is kind of guaranteeing focus on itself through the staking is I think extremely valuable. And it's the length of focus. Like Bitcoin, it's what is it, 12 years old or something like that, 13 years old. I mean, like Hex guaranteeing focus for 15 years with these max length stakes there's a lot of potential there with that, I think. And anyway, that it just relates to these other tokens bringing focus. Focus is one of those really valuable things, I think. I
can hear RH in my head just saying, when people locked up for 15 years, they're going to say real nice things. They're not going to, it's in their best interest. Just like you said, you've got this pumpamental around the community and Hex, where it is in your best interest to do and say nice things about Hex for a long period of time.
I love the idea too of, like, we're locked in this community for a long time. Like I have 15-year stakes. Anyone else that is, we're going to be in this together for 15 years, and that's an interesting idea. We should be nice to each other.
Yeah. Yes. You do the work. My favorite quote of all time, one of my favorites. You do the work. If you want to see it happen, you want this thing to succeed, you do the work.